Welcome to Semantically Imperfect, where we will identify, explore, examine, and navigate a plethora of topics concerning humanity and human development, moral discourse, parenting, and holistic health. I am yours truly, Semantic 7. Peace, love, prosperity, and blessings in abundance. So happy, so excited, so privileged to be back in this space with all of you. This is a platform that I do not take for granted. I am grateful every single day that God and the universe has made a plan. It has dedicated this platform for us, where we can exchange, where we can listen, where we can share, where we can be thought-provoking, where we can be our most vulnerable and emotional selves. I bet you're wondering, what's on the agenda today? Well, I'm here to tell you, in the light of it being National Poetry Month, and with myself being a poet, a writer, someone who just loves and believes wholeheartedly in the art form of poetry, in the context of trying to make life make sense. Every Monday on this podcast, we will do what I like to call a Poetic Prose Monday. Now, I bet you're wondering, semantics, what is Poetic Prose Monday? And what does poetry actually mean to you? Poetic Prose Monday is a dedicated time where I will share my most enriching, poignant, thought-provoking, emotionally evocative, poetic projects, writing pieces. I will share that to you all. In spoken word, this is where we would take the poetic piece and I will provide background. It's an inside scoop. You get a front row seat into the mind of someone who champions this art form. I'm not saying that I am a master at poetry. I'm a master at imitating life through art. But I am a imperfect project that will one day, through hard work, dedication, effort, and God's grace, that I will become better every day, striving and thriving to get better and to make an impact to all of you. So that's what Poetic Prose Monday is all about. It's all about appreciating the art form, and it's about making it make sense. And you will have that front row seat, that bird's eye view into the background of the piece, the inspiration piece, the themes, the meanings, and the message that I was trying to convey. When I think about poetry, I like to look at poetry as an expressive art form, an expressive art form that could either be performed orally or it can be expressed in written form. I also like to look at poetry as a way of evoking certain emotions and certain feelings that may not manifest or even come to the conscious mind without a little poke, without a little nudge. Poetry is a way of giving yourself the permission to analyze, to examine, to seek understanding about your lived experiences, about your trials and tribulations, about your traumas and adverse lived situations, about your convictions and your values, your morals and your ethics, about a brighter future, about aesthetic beauty and the enigma of these of this work. Poetry is the gateway to understanding what sometimes is not meant to be understood. It taps you into another dimension to where you can get really extremely visceral and deep. And I have used poetry over this last decade as therapy. I have used it to help me work through anxiety, depression, combat stress, daily distress, relationship problems, not knowing what to do as a parent, and working through an identity reconstruction period. I love it. I love it. I can't get enough of it. There's times where I even resort to poetry because I do not have the, I don't have the right words to speak about it. So rather than try to speak about it, I'll write about it. And typically I'm able to ascertain from the writing a sense of comprehension about the problem, about the issue, and it gives me the insight to do better next time. During this Poetic Prose Monday, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to appreciate poetry for those who are already poetry fanatics, enthusiasts, those who are novice in the field, those who study, teach, educate, and then for those that just love to hear, and just love to be in space. We will address all of that today. So center your consciousness and relax your mind. And let's go on this journey together to the depths below. This piece is called An Epidemic. An epidemic has risen beneath the ashes of desperation and loneliness, plaguing inner city streets, disappointing gated neighborhoods and suburban communities, harassing agriculturists tending to rural and farming properties, infiltrating locker rooms and school hallways, dismantling homes and families, and crippling the cultural integrity of lucrative industries. An epidemic is on the brink of creating disaster and chaos beyond human or artificial imagination, leaving only memories, cold, distant memories of sunshine, rainbows, and bright fluorescent skies. Is there surprise? What about regret? As we blindly navigate with perplexity in an existential mess, an epidemic is approaching faster than human reaction can dodge or duck from catastrophic impact. Preparedness is an afterthought. Barriers and walls are unformidable. Attacking a disease requires the unified action of a common cause, fighting to preserve the divine gifts of humanity from becoming null and void. This faceless threat has already devoured and conquered millions of souls of our children and youth. There's no time to relish in the moment or contemplate severity. Two choices are unequivocally clear. Rise to greater heights beyond the epidemic and exterminate its existence, or sit back, observe, and allow resistance to perpetuate further unprecedented plight. What will it be? I wrote this piece about 2 months ago. We were coming out of Christmas, the new year. Here we are in 2022, and I'm full of cheer and delight. I'm just excited for the next step. And through one of my periods of reflection, I was doing a consciousness, stream of consciousness exercise where I sit down with my dad and for about 10, 15, sometimes even 20 minutes, I'll write the first thing that comes to mind. I don't hold anything back. I'm not curving my tongue. I'm not making sure that it's go, it's grammatically sound, appropriate sentence structure. None of that. None of that is in consideration. And then mind you, in the background, no lighting, no technology whatsoever. Just me in a calming, relaxing, isolated space. And so as I'm writing, I did this for about a little over 10 minutes. I noticed that a lot of the things that I was writing down, I was actually had a lot to do with the effects of COVID-19 pandemic and how I have kind of embodied those effects on distant communities for me, distant families for me, distant countries for me. And, as I'm looking down at my notebook and I see that I noticed I had this fear for all of those who were impact, who were impacted by this and didn't see it coming. And then I also realized just the privilege that I have had throughout the pandemic, only getting COVID once, since I'm still in the military, on my way out, still getting the paycheck first and 15th, having the flexibility to do homeschool with my children, not have them out there in the public school environment. My wife working from home, so not having to worry about her contracting the disease. And so it made me realize my own privilege through this crisis. But in the same token, there was this vicarious effect because I was well aware and still well aware of just how it has plagued so many of you out there, some more than others. And so that's what compelled me to write this. I decided to, when I did, and when I decided to write this, it was, there was so much emotions that came out of me. I was, my body tensed up. My mind was just racing with thoughts. Hands were sweating. And my anxiety was actually kicking in. That's how visceral it was writing this piece. I started, I tried to envision myself walking the streets of neighborhoods and communities, cities, towns, local businesses, and just open my eyes and ask myself, what do you see? Can you describe what is happening? And what type of impact do you witness and that you can process and eventually organize in a way to let those that may not have that awareness or that understanding to make it plain. And so as I am visualizing myself going from one place to another, like some globetrotter, and I'm also processing all of the different stories that I've read, interviews that I've listened to, where people have lost their loved ones due to COVID, where people have lost their jobs due to the pandemic, where people have lost that sense of social connection and social harmony, where the pandemic has created family strife, where it has impacted lifestyles and finances and economic stability. All of that is feeding my spirit as I'm also visualizing myself in these spaces, not as the main character, not even as a collateral, but just a fly on the wall, unbiased, observant, looking at these experiences for what they are and doing my very, very best to capture it in an authentic and genuine way. So as I am writing, I'm able to translate what I have acquired accurately and sufficiently in a written form. It's it's a deep it's a deep process. However, at the end of writing this piece, I felt relieved. I felt a sense of I felt settled psychologically and mentally. Uh, those burdens, that the tension, the strain that I was experiencing subsided, and it had escalated from that to what a blessing it is to channel that type of energy, channel those type of emotions in order to in order to bring something to life. I want to share something with all of you that's tuning in on Semantically Imperfect. And it's the quote of the day. And this quote of the day, I was pondering on who to quote, what to say. And as I was reflecting on what this piece that I wrote means to me, and also how poetry is a driving force in my life when I am processing lived experiences and traumas, and trials and tribulations, I wanted a quote that was reflective to the making it make sense, providing some type of foundation and blueprint for us to use as reference, give us some semblance of comprehension. And I th- eventually, I found one that was from one of my favorite poets, Audre Lorde. And the quote of the day is, poetry is not only dream and vision, it is the skeleton architecture of our lives. It lays the foundations for a future of change, a bridge across our fears of what has never been before. Thank you so much for sitting in this space with me on Semantically Imperfect. Thank you so much for being your vulnerable selves, your emotional selves, being a part of the first Poetic Prose Monday, and being the best version of yourselves. I am Semantic 7. Peace, love, blessings, and prosperity. And I'll see you on the next episode.